Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters and distinguished many guests. I recently came across an article and it was titled, "The 7 Proven Ingredients to a Successful Marriage." While reading this, I couldn't help but think that a lot of these ingredients didn't really apply to me and Sing-chan, my husband. And I thought, you know what, that makes sense because all relationships are very different and unique and different types of ingredients might work for their recipe. For example, one of our sterling ingredients is 100% honesty. 100%. No exceptions. I think that the reason why this is so important to the both of us is because of our history. Although we've only been married for a little over 5 years now, we've known each other since I was 7 years old and he was 8 years old. So we've known each other for over 20 years, which has been the majority of our lives. And this basically means that we've had plenty of time to really get to know each other to all sorts of depths and in different environments and settings, and we've also been able to get very comfortable with each other. And I think some people might even argue that we're a little bit too comfortable with one another. So quick side story on that. My dad one time pulled me aside and he said, "Hey, I need to talk to you about something kind of serious." So I got a little bit nervous because he wasn't so keen about us getting married at such an early age. I was 22 at the time and my husband was 23. And so I thought it was going to be something about that. But then he completely caught me off guard and he said, Wonbin's my Korean name, he said, "Wonbin, you need to stop burping and farting in front of Sing-chan." And I know he was being serious, but I couldn't help but laugh because this is a conversation that my husband and I have had a lot of times with each other. And we've talked about the fact that being able to burp and fart freely in front of each other is actually a very critical part of our relationship. If we couldn't do that, I don't think that it would have worked out between us, to be honest. And so when I say 100% honesty, I'm not just referring to the openness, something like that, and I'm not just referring to comments like, "The outfit doesn't look really good on you," or "The food that you made yesterday didn't taste good." I mean, all that stuff is definitely encompassed under that honesty umbrella, but I'm also talking about the types of honesty that's kind of hard to hear, the really brutal honesty, if you will. So I'm about to get a little bit personal, a little bit more personal than I already have. When I PMS, sometimes it can be really, really severe. And the weird thing is that my mood swings only seem to really happen between me and my husband. And so he ends up getting the full brunt of the wrath. I don't really show it to other people, he just ends up taking all of it. And early on in our relationship, it was difficult for him to handle because he didn't really know how to deal with this other side of the PMSing Viv. He didn't know how to handle that. And it wasn't his fault. He did everything that he could. He tried to be nice to me. He tried to be mean and be nasty right back at me. He tried to give me space. He tried to be overbearing and overcompensate. And no matter what he did, it was just the wrong thing. He couldn't do the right thing. And so one day, when I wasn't PMSing, he said, "Okay, let's try to figure this out." You know, he's like, "Let's talk about it. I want to know what's going on in your head. Maybe if I understand the thought process, maybe I can find a solution. Maybe I can do something differently, and we can kind of get by this once a month thing." And I was thinking, I don't think this is going to happen, but okay. So I was like, all right, well, 100% honesty, right? So let me be frank. And I said, "You know, this is what's going on in my head. Every once a month, I think I fall out of love with you." And he just kind of was like, "Okay, keep going." I said, "You look like a different person to me. You sound like a different person to me. Everything that you do and say just drives me crazy. And I kind of just want nothing to do with you." And he was like, "Wow, those are some really serious feelings. Those are really strong feelings." And I was like, "Yeah." And he's a really good man, and he said, "Okay," and he shrugged it off, and he said, "Well, as long as, you know, you get past it, and as long as you fall back in love with me, I guess that's what really matters." And I said, "Oh yeah, I mean, like, it passes after 2 to 3 days. I feel terrible that I felt that way, and I know it's irrational, but I just can't help it. That's just how I feel." So I was very honest about that. And shortly after the conversation, I remember he had a few days to kind of process it and digest it, and we were lying in bed, we were about to fall asleep. And I remember we were looking at each other, and all of a sudden he goes, "Wait, so let me get this straight." He was like, "So sometimes do you just look at me and think, like, man, my husband is really, really ugly?" And I was like, "Yeah, sometimes I do." And I know that this might sound kind of harsh, and it might sound like, you know, maybe you can withhold a little bit of that honesty. But it's kind of like that analogy I was doing about the recipe. I think everyone has different flavors and different preferences of what works for their recipe. For example, my husband and I both love mushrooms, onions, and garlic. If we have any dish that calls for those 3 ingredients, we will triple the amount. And that's how I see honesty in our relationship. We need a little bit of that extra honesty for it to fit our flavor and to fit our taste buds. And just like taste buds, perhaps over time, we'll see, you know, maybe we can hone down on that honesty, but I think for now, it's been working for us. And in case you were curious, we did find a temporary solution that, so that he doesn't have to endure my every monthly PMS sessions, and that's been to get me pregnant. So that's definitely worked out for us.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Not much older than I am. Our first speaker today was Viviana Lee, and she was giving speech number 4 out of the CC manual, which is how to say it. You know, to me, speech number 4 is one of the toughest speeches to give because there's not a lot of strict guidance. The guidance that I'm about to tell you that the speech requires is kind of a broad picture, so it's kind of hard to fit in a speech. And I personally have trouble with speech number 4, but I think that Viviana today really did knock it out of the park and had us totally into it. The speaker is to use words and arrangements of words that effectively communicate his or her message to the audience, and that she certainly did. The speaker should select clear, accurate, descriptive, and short words and choose verbs that convey action. We should do that. Sentence and paragraph construction should be simple and short. The speaker needs to include rhetorical devices, avoid jargon and unnecessary words, and use correct grammar. The speech must have a clear purpose and be appropriately organized. Whew. So that's a lot to talk about. So I kind of boiled it down into some specific areas that I think I can show you some areas where Viviana did quite well and some areas that perhaps if you worked on a little bit would be even better. First of all, when Viviana came and approached the lectern, she was very confident. She approached it confidently, her approach, and was very friendly. And so right away we had a feeling, all right, we're going to listen to this person because it's clear she has her act together and she's going to know what she's talking about, so we're going to listen. So that's very important, how you approach the problem. She did that very well. All throughout your talk was very humorous. You had all these little stories that we all laughed at, and I thought that was effective. So you used words very effectively to bring us into your various stories on that. And all the way along, you brought us into your story, and we could relate with many of the things that you talked about in your relationship with your husband. When you started talking about the 7 secrets to a happy marriage, I guess I expected you were going to go through a list of 7, and so I started numbering them down. But you never got past the first one, and I think that's fine, but maybe you need to be a little bit more deliberate in explaining that. There are 7 secrets to a happy marriage. I'm going to talk about the one that I feel is most important. And I'm going to put my pen down and not look at it so clever. So just be a little more definitive about what you're going to do, and I think it'll be easier for us to follow once you continue. The one area that I've noted before with your speeches that you still need to work on is you tend to speak very quickly and run words together, run sentences together, and you just keep going because you have so much to say you don't want to stop at any point even for the end of the sentence. Or one example said, let me tell you a story about my dad. Da, 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 da. Let me tell you a story about my dad. Pause, let it sink in, then tell us the story. And you tended to do this through many of your stories. And that's the one area, if you do nothing else, work on that particular area of your speaking. You use a word which we refer to as passing gas. I think that's okay in this club, but some clubs it's not, so just be aware that there may be other ways to express the same thing. You had a couple of side comments, once a month thing, and then you had the side comment about this or that. And again, since this was speech number 4, we would want to try to avoid the side comments. But overall, you had us into the speech. You used the kind of words we all could understand and follow, and you did an excellent job with it. And I look very much forward to your speech number 5.